everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ashley and I'm an architect in Ontario, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you how I passed and how I failed the ExAC exam, and I'm going to be sharing you my process and journey through writing the ExAC exam, which was a roller coaster. And I think this is a great opportunity for me to share my story. Although at first I was a bit hesitant to share, but I think it's important to do that and to share with you and be transparent about that process, and that it's not a straight path a lot of times, and there are bumps on the road. And so I want to share that with you. So perhaps you're thinking about writing the exam, or perhaps you received the results already, or you're thinking about writing the exam and you want to get a bit of inspiration or a bit of an understanding about the journey of writing the exams. Well, this video might be helpful for you. So if you're interested, let's get started. So I have to admit that I was a bit hesitant to share this process because it's something that I have to say, in a way, I was a bit of ashamed to say that I didn't pass all 4 exams all in one shot. You know, a lot of it, there's reasoning why I didn't pass all 4, and I'm gonna go through that with you. It was a whole journey and a whole process for me, and I think that I don't just want this channel to be about all of the success and milestones that I hit and not share about some of the struggles. And for me, the ExAC has a bit of a struggle story to it, and it was a bit of a process for me to get through the ExAC exam. And to be honest, this is something that I didn't even share with a lot of friends, and well, of course with family I did share, but there's a lot of friends that I didn't even share the story with, and now I've decided to share it on the internet with everyone. But I do think that this is important to share, and I have some lessons as well that I learned, and I want to share that with you. And I think that my mentality of being embarrassed or ashamed of failing was very wrong. I think we need to embrace our failures, and it doesn't, you know, if we fail, we have to look back to see what we did wrong and how we could improve that. But you shouldn't give up. And if I gave up, then I would never have gotten licensed. I kept going and I just reflected back on what I did wrong. And I'm going to share with that as we move into this video. So by the end of the video, you're going to have an understanding of my journey. And also, if you're in this journey and perhaps you received your results for your first exam and they didn't go well, I hope this too is an inspiration for you, and I want you to not be ashamed and to embrace it as well. And so let's get into the story. So the first attempt when I wrote the exam, I have to say that I wasn't very serious, and for some reason I thought that I didn't really need to study very much for it, and I started to organize a study plan, but I didn't really keep to that study plan, and I let work kind of overtake everything, and I wasn't really serious, and I didn't take the studying very serious. And so when I got to writing the exam, the first section, I found it to be very easy because it was based upon all of the things that I had a lot of work experience from. So from design, planning, spatial planning, and so on. And so programming and so on. And so that was one of my strengths. So I flew through that exam really easily, and I actually felt very confident afterwards. And I thought, okay, this is a piece of cake, right? And so when I got into the section 2, which I believe was the building code, that's when it hit me that I was not prepared at all. I really didn't prepare at all. I didn't take it serious enough in that I could actually potentially do well. So, and then once I wrote the 3rd and the 4th section, I was not feeling good afterwards. You can tell if you somewhat did well, and I could tell that I didn't do well on the last 3 sections of the exam. I probably, even though they don't give you like exact results, like if you got 85% or 90 or an A or a B, but I knew I probably aced that exam, the first one. But the other ones, they were brutal for me to get through, and I knew that I should have taken my studying a bit serious. And so that was wrong of me to go into it thinking that, oh, my work experience is enough. No. And what kind of work experience did I have at the time? Not really a lot, right? So that was my first attempt when I wrote the exam. And so then the results came in, and to be honest, it didn't hit me that hard. I knew I probably only passed one of them, but I was hoping for a miracle that I passed all 4 sections. But that was a big miracle to ask for because I knew that I should have studied more and so on. So I knew I wasn't prepared for the exam. So I wasn't too disappointed, but I did feel a bit ashamed that I didn't pass. And I think a lot of that came to that I was a straight A student back in university, and so I felt like a bit of a shame that I didn't pass. But at the same time, I didn't really prepare for it like a lot of my coworkers and friends at the time that prepared for the exam. So that was something that I didn't feel too horrible about, and I knew that moving forward in writing the second attempt, and as you know or may not know, you have 3 attempts to write the exam. So you have 3 attempts to write the ones that you failed. So you don't have to rewrite all of the 4 sections. So if you only, in this case, when I first wrote my first attempt, I failed one of the sections. I didn't need to write that section 1, but I did need to write the ones that I failed. And so you have 3 attempts to do so. So this pushed into the second attempt. So on my second attempt, I was preparing. I prepared a study plan. I knew that I needed to take this serious. So I did not go into it like I did for the first attempt. So during the second attempt, I knew I needed to take this serious. I put together a plan. I put together some resources that would be really helpful for me, and I started to really create a realistic plan because I think on the first attempt, my plan was very loose, and then I wasn't taking it too serious. I just kind of didn't really study or push myself, and then I was busy at the same time, so that probably didn't help too. But on the second attempt, I knew that I needed to do well, and I needed to have a stronger study plan and really prepare a bit more. Now, I also want to mention that I don't test well. I don't perform very well on tests. I'm really good at applying my knowledge, but in terms of, and when I say applying my knowledge, meaning that applying it into practice, into the real world, not necessarily on tests. For some reason, I don't know why, but I don't do well on tests. And so for me to overcompensate my bad performance on tests, I do need to prepare a little bit more than maybe some, or although a lot of people really do prepare for the exam, I have to say. So I knew I really needed to meet at the same level as everyone else was preparing and take it really serious as well. So that's what I did. I got my resources together. I put together a study plan, and I was feeling pretty confident. I was giving it my all. I was going to the library, studying as much as possible, and I tried to cover all of the objectives set out on the ExAC website. They have a little PDF there, and I really went through those. When it came to the day of the exam, I went in and I wrote the building code. And I didn't think I aced it, but I thought I did well. I thought it was enough to pass. I felt pretty confident about it. And then for the third, section 3, it was on the final project. And I thought that one was a little challenging, but I knew the majority of the answers. I felt confident on the majority. So I thought, okay, I think I did well on that one. I did struggle on section 4, and I did remember when I was going through the questions that I should have studied the contracts a bit more, CCD, C2, and so on. And I felt that I didn't know those contracts well enough, but I thought that perhaps I did enough to pass everything. And so I was pretty I was thinking, you know what, it was better than my first attempt, so I think I passed everything. So then I was waiting for the results. Let me tell you about the results. They took a while to get in. I'm not sure if something happened through the mailing process, because they do send a physical copy of the results, right? So I got the results, and then I was a little nervous to open the results, but I thought, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta read those results. And then once I opened it, I saw that it was terrible. Let me just tell you. It was so devastating. You know, I can even still feel the emotions that I was going through at the time. But basically, I only passed one of the exams that I rewrote. I only passed the building code. I failed section 3, which is the final project, and then I failed section 4, the contract admin. I could understand section 4. I could see that. I felt like I didn't know the contracts enough. You know, I could have had more sound knowledge on that and studied a bit more on the contracts. But I prepared for that section 3, the final project. And I prepared for the building code as well. But for the final project, I knew that one was a little bit more challenging, because at the time, the averages, the passing rate for all 4 sections, the final project was one of the challenging ones. And so I knew that I had to study for that one quite a bit. And I really spent a lot of time on it. And I just remember feeling so devastated. Like, where do I go from here? Like, how do I even prepare to study for this? I studied as much as possible and I failed. I did everything that I could potentially do and I failed. For the section 4, I understood where I went wrong. I felt it when I was writing the exam and I saw where I went wrong. But for the final project, section 3, I was so devastated. I broke down, shed a few tears, and I said, I thought that, this idea and this objective of mine to get licensed was going to end there, because how was I supposed to, reflecting on what I did, I really honestly didn't know what else I could do to study better for it. I really didn't know. And I then went on to the ExAC website and they had a review option. Okay. And now the funny thing here is I thought it meant a completely different thing. And I even emailed ExAC and I actually spoke with them and I said that, what exactly is this review? And I think I actually signed up. I signed up for it first, which I'm glad I did, because I think if I didn't sign up for it, I wouldn't have had, you'll know later on the story, the success out of it. So the review, I signed up for the review because I felt like the review would help me. And that was my last kind of option to explore, because I was so devastated, honestly. And so I signed up for the review and I thought to myself, oh, this review is probably, keep that note there. In my mind, in my imagination, I thought the review meant that I would sit down with someone and review and understand what I need to work on. And so that's what I thought in my mind a review was. But after contacting ExAC, they let me know that a review is not that. And I'm like, oh no, you have to pay for it too. I can't remember how much on it. And if you're curious about this, and if you have received your results, I would recommend doing a review. I'll get into it why you should do it. But I did the review and they had mentioned, when I asked what exactly was review, I get to sit down with someone, like an architect, and review and go through my exam. And they were like, no. A review basically is that they go through your exam and they remark it. So they go back and they reevaluate if I should have been failed or not. The exam, and don't quote me exactly because I can't remember exactly, but go on the website, there's more details. And I recommend getting in touch with ExAC as well. But there's a panel of architects, more than one, that will review it and see if you needed an adjustment, like should have you failed that section or not. And so they go back and re-review your exam. And so then they got back to me and they said that I actually passed section 3. But section 4, I failed still. Like, I still failed it. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. Because I was so relieved that I had, actually passed the building code and the final project. Even though I did fail the contract admin, I was just relieved that I passed the final project because I studied for that, and I really honestly did not know where to go. And so when I got that result back, I'm like, that matches exactly how I felt in writing it. Now, I didn't feel like I aced it, no, but I felt like I had enough of the knowledge to pass, right? So I didn't feel like it should have been a fail. So when I got that back, I was like, yes, okay, I get that. But before I didn't. And that's why I was devastated, because I think, at least with me, I'll be devastated if it's something that I feel like, wasn't right? Like, I felt if it's justified, like I really didn't know the answers to the questions, or I feel there was a lack of my knowledge in the topic or in that exam, then I'm like, that's right, I should have failed. But I really didn't feel like I should have failed the final project. Now, let's get into the third attempt. Now, this again is a bit of a roller coaster, and there's even a roller coaster of emotions that I went through on this third attempt. Now, with this third attempt, there's a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure to pass this last exam. So I really went in and studied, contract admin to my full capacity. I studied those contracts like I never did before. And so the third time writing in, I felt a lot of pressure because I didn't want to rewrite all of the 3 sections, which was already a whole roller coaster of emotions. Although I'm sure if I had to rewrite it again, it would be a lot easier in that sense, because I already kind of learned from my past mistakes as well. So this third time, I really went in and I studied those contracts and so on. And so after writing the exam, and let me tell you, on the day of the exam, anyways, the exams are always during a time where I find that you're really busy. If you are working and practicing intern, I remember being super busy with work, and I still remember I was answering emails till the last minute of writing the exam. And the scary part was that I almost messed up my third attempt because I showed up right on time. And when I mean right on time, my heart was beating getting to the location because I mistakenly thought it was in a different place, and then it was actually somewhere else. So I was running to that. Then I couldn't find the entrance into the building. And of course, when you're writing an exam, you're looking at your watch, you need to be there a few minutes before, and you have to register and stuff like that. So I knew I was really cutting it close, and I was trying to find the entrance, and I was going through, and I saw these large windows, and I can see the students, everyone at their desks, ready to write the exam. And I can't find the main entrance. And I'm looking at the watch, and I'm like panicking, and I'm like walking through, looking for the entrance around the building, and then I saw someone exiting. And so I entered, and I took advantage that the door was open, and I shouldn't have entered from there. Now, when I look back, I had to walk a bit more around the building to get through the other side. And I don't recommend this. Do go earlier to the location of your exam. Don't do this, because obviously my adrenaline at the time, I'm like really hyped up trying to find the location. And then I had to register, and I'm looking for the registration area. Then I register, and everyone's sitting at their desks. I think I was the last one. And I'm like, then I had to find my desk. And I'm like trying to find the desk. And I was asking people there that were kind of supervising and looking out at everyone writing the exam. And I'm like, I'm trying to find my desk number, yada, yada. And they're like, okay, all the way at the front, on top of it. It's all the way at the front. So I have to basically run to the desk. And then I sit down, and I'm just breathing heavily. And then I just remember taking a deep breath before they give you the okay to open up your exam, and just breathing and just trying to relax myself that I made it to the exam, and now I just need to pass this and get through it, and everything will be all right. And if I don't pass, that's okay too. And I think the one thing that really helped me for even the second attempt and the third attempt is you really feel a bit like a failure, right? You really feel down in the dumps in a way. And what really helped me is to get my mindset right. And I think a lot of times, well, our society doesn't really embrace failure. It's seen as such a negative thing. But I really put my mindset right, and I just remember telling myself that, you know what? At least I actually made an attempt to write the exam. Yes, the first attempt was bad. I didn't really prepare for it. But you know what? I actually went and I tried, and I wrote the exam, and I understood what my shortfalls were. I corrected them, and I wrote it again, and I'm gonna write it again. And I will keep going until I get what I want and what my objective is. So I will keep going until I pass. I'm not gonna let that get to me. And if you don't take a shot, you don't know either. And a lot of times I think that, you are gonna fail, and that's okay. At least you tried. Because I see there's a lot of people that want to write the exam, but they're too afraid to do it. They don't want to fail. You know what? Who cares, right? I think that you should embrace the possibility that you're going to fail, and that's okay because you can rewrite it and you can go for it. But to let that fear get to you and not do something, I think that is incorrect. And we should embrace the failures, because I think just looking back on my career and my whole journey, I learned more from my failures than I do from the successful stories that I've been through and successful situations. You learn more from those failures moving forward, and that also makes you grow as a person, and it builds resilience as well. So don't let that get to you. And I think, and I hope you get that from this video, that to embrace that failure. Don't be ashamed of it. I mean, it's easier said than done, because I was a bit ashamed of it and I was disappointed in myself. But I'm so glad that I changed that mindset. And I really do believe that really helped me to improve myself through the exams. And having that mindset is really important. And so then let's get to the results. I wrote the exam. I felt neutral about it, I have to say. I didn't feel as bad as I did on the second attempt or the first attempt. So I did feel like I did okay, but I wasn't like, oh yes, I aced it. No, I didn't feel that way, but I thought I did enough. I wasn't sure. So after the exam, I was waiting for my results, and I was hearing everyone getting their results, and some people were really happy, or a lot of people were very happy. And I would say that more people pass than fail. So there's only a few. The passing rate is quite high, and I think it's around 75-80. I'll include a little screen grab from the ExAC website with kind of the passing rate right now. And so it actually isn't bad. And so that's why I kind of went into it, my first attempt, very confident without really preparing very much. So that's not good. So I wouldn't look at that, but do prepare for the exam. And I do believe that if you do prepare, you will be okay. But you need to prepare. You can't go into it as I did for the first attempt. And so then I was waiting for the results. Everyone was getting their results, and I was hearing a lot of people really happy and so on. And so everyone was getting their results. And I'm like waiting. A month went by, a couple of weeks went by. I'm still waiting for the results. And so it got to the point where I'm like, where are these results? And so I contacted ExAC again. And I'm like, I've been waiting for months, I think at that point. It was a couple of months after they would say that the results would get mailed out. And so I messaged them, and they said, oh, it must have gotten lost in the mail. Most likely because I never saw those results. And so they actually emailed me the results. And I was very nervous to open that email. But after opening the email, Yes, I passed at my third attempt, section 4. And so it was a pass. It was a great feeling. I remember feeling very relieved in that process. You know, it actually felt more special because I really worked for it. And because of the whole story that I had and my whole journey, it was a roller coaster for me. And because of that, it really did feel great. And I remember when I got that pass rate, I said to myself that I would go and help other people with some information and what I've learned from studying and preparing for ExAC with others, because I remember feeling so hopeless when I got my results the second time. So hopeless, like I didn't know where I was gonna go forward on, especially for that final section 3. I felt so hopeless that I didn't know where, because the thing with ExAC is there's not a lot of resources out there to help you. And so it's a relatively new exam and there's not a lot of people sharing information on it. And so I really didn't know where to go and where to turn. And I felt so hopeless. And so once I was able to reframe and get myself focused on what needed to be done and so on, I got through it. But I knew that when I got through it, that I wanted to share that experience with other people and I wanted to help other people not to feel hopeless. And if you're in that situation, just remember you have this channel and this community and there is hope. Just keep going. And I will continue here on the channel to share more tips about how I went through the preparation for the exam and so on. And never lose hope. Just never give up. Because if I had given up, I wouldn't have been here with my license. So I'm so glad that I kept pushing through, although I had a moment. You know, we all have our moments, you know, have your moment, you know, have your little breakdown, but then get up and keep going. And don't let failure get in the way either. So I want that to be a message for you. And let me know down below if you're planning to write the ExAC or if you have written the ExAC, and if you are comfortable in sharing if you passed or failed, share it down below. I think sharing is important and you will also feel better about it too. I was very private about my results and my journey through ExAC, and I realized that it shouldn't be like that. You know, if I only share the successful stories, I think that's not very true because I did struggle with the exam, but I got through it. And I hope this was helpful for you. And I do recommend doing a review, especially if you felt you did enough to pass and you went through those questions and you felt pretty confident about them. So I would do a review, or even if you didn't, it doesn't hurt to do a review as well. And you can check that out on the ExAC website. I'll include a link down below in the description box. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video. And of course, if you want to support the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you on the next video. Until then, bye.